the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old. The pines were roaring on the height, the winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, it flaming spread, the trees like torches blazed with light.
Hey everybody, Lord Tremendous here. I'm doing something a little different. This is not a battle report. So if you were under the impression it was going to be a battle report, I apologize in advance. This is a Dwarf Army book review. First one I've ever done. That's right, I have over 100 battle reports and I've never done anything else. I fear change. If it's a little screwy, a little messed up or whatever like that, well, I apologize. It's my first time, and I guarantee you were bad your first time too. So, really, what I plan on doing is going through the book, and this is going to be my first impressions. I've had the book for about a day now. I've read through it a few times. This is my opinions. These are my first impressions of this book. About a month or so from now, I'll do a follow-up to this Army book review where I've got more experience with it, against it, whatever. I'm not going to play Dwarves, but you get it. I'll face it and stuff like that. But really, this is just to open up debate. These are all my opinions. They're supposed to invoke debate, emotion, deep thinking, anger. So if I say something and you're like, you motherless bastard, that's not true, don't talk about my dwarves like that, then post in the comment section. Feel free. Say whatever you want. Invoke the, whatever emotion that I can get from you and put it in the comment section and let us all share it. And hopefully our dwarf listeners will become better for it and give us a better challenge and finally make the dwarves a viable army once again. I know they were viable before, but now they have to deal with the fact that they have 8th edition rules and their point costs have gone up. But anyway, we'll get to that because my plan is, as you can see here, the fluff, the history, the clans, the stories, all that stuff, I'm going to skip going over the fluff. If you want to check out a place that does great coverage of fluff, check out the Garage Hammer podcast. You will not get better coverage of the fluff anywhere else on the planet. Yeah, so go ahead and check them out. I'm not going to touch fluff because it doesn't really have any impact on the gameplay as far as I'm concerned. But the history, the clan stories, cool stuff. I love it. It's good fluff. I enjoyed reading it, but I'm not going to go over it. It's just not worth it. I'm going to get right into it, though. The new Army Special Rules. Ooh, exciting. Ancestral Grudge. This I like. This, I know I just said the fluff really doesn't come into it or anything like that, but this right here, this I like. How it works is in the beginning of the, well, provided you're not playing, if you're a dwarf player, provided that they're not playing against orcs and goblins or Skaven, they roll on this chart. If they're playing orcs and goblins, or Skaven, they immediately, their entire army hates the entire army, which is very cool. Especially considering most of them are only weapon skill 3 and 4. Sorry, I'm going to have a biased opinion. I play Warriors of Chaos. Get over it. Lord Tremendous is a demon. What can I tell you? But 1 to 3 possibilities exist if you're not playing orcs and goblins or Skaven. After everything's deployed, but before Vanguard, you roll a d6, and on a 1 or 2, you have a personal vendetta. Basically, your general hates the enemy general. On a 3 or 4, your army... Yeah, I'm sorry, all friendly character models hate all enemy character models. So that's kind of cool, good for challenges and stuff like that. And on a 5 or a 6, your entire army hates the entire enemy army, which is pretty badass. So basically, if you can roll well enough, your army will always get rerolls in the first round of any combat. So that's actually kind of a cool little rule that they gave the dwarves. I like that. Some of their other rules are like dwarf crafted. Mostly it's it's just about everything that shoots, that can stand and shoot, is dwarf crafted. Go figure. And basically they don't suffer the -1 to hit for being charged, which is cool because now when they get charged, they can stand and shoot and not have to worry about it as much, which makes sense. I could see the dwarves being, stubborn as hell like that. Which brings us to their next special rule, which is Resolute. Basically, whenever dwarves charge and make the charge, and with movement 3, that's not going to be as often as you might think. I've already watched a couple of battle reports on YouTube that with people that have gotten a game in against the new dwarves, and I see a lot of failed charges. People really underestimate adding only 3 to their 2d6 charge. But anyway, Resolute is when the dwarves miraculously make that downhill charge. They get a +1 strength on the charge, which is kind of neat. For the most part, even their characters are stuck at strength 4. Again, I'm totally biased. I play Warriors of Chaos. Most of my characters are strength 5 or, stuff like that. So seeing strength 4 and stuff on them, that Resolute is really going to come in handy. The next one is Relentless. And I gotta be honest, Relentless, when I read it, at first it was like, oh, cool, so dwarves can't be march blocked for the most part. And then I started thinking about it. Who the hell cares if the dwarf is march blocked or not? They're movement 3. If they're marching, they're movement 6. I don't take Gorby's chariots because they're movement 6. So what? Oh no, the dwarf isn't march blocked. He's gonna move 6 inches. We're not talking about Illyrian Reavers here, alright? We're not talking about Chaos Knights. We're talking about dwarves on foot with no cavalry option whatsoever. Be relentless. I couldn't care less. But the one that I do care about is Shield Wall. And in my opinion, this is probably the coolest new rule that the dwarves got. Anytime that a dwarf unit gets charged, and they would have in close combat, would have a parry bonus anyway, they would have the ability to parry it, they get a +1 to parry. So basically, just for the turn that they get charged in, they become Tzeentch Warriors. Yeah, so that's really cool because immediately I start thinking about that movie 300 where they do the shield wall and arf and all that stuff. So I like that. I like the idea of the little Spartan dwarves behind their shields going, oh crap. And I also like the idea that it's encouraging people to start using shields as opposed to great weapons on all their stuff. I think that's a mistake, but hey, some people I would probably do it if I played dwarves. Their last new special rule that I'm going to mention is their natural resistance. Basically, dwarves get a +2 bonus to dispel any casting stuff because they're dwarves. Unless, for any reason on your team, there's a wizard on your side. It disrupts their natural resistance, which the Tzeentch Lord inside of me really laughs about. I find that quite humorous. So that's kind of a neat thing, and just something to watch out for, especially if you're playing against the dwarves. In like a team game or a Triumph and Treachery, for example, or hell, even some scenarios in GTs and stuff. If there's a wizard for some reason on their team, that resistance goes away, so that could be useful. Here's their armory, and this is just the stuff that kind of clarifies what all the other stuff is that's not in the BRB. Their Grommel armor is 4-up armor, so they have Chaos armor, or whatever you want to call it, that's fine. The Dwarf crossbow, 30-inch range, strength 4, dwarf crafted, so you don't have to worry about taking a negative for standing and shooting. But it's move or fire. So when I see that, it makes me think that maybe you'll see more Thunderers. Well, I don't know. Maybe the Thunderers have the dwarf handgun because the dwarf handgun is it's shorter range by 6 inches. It's 24-inch range, but it's also strength 4. However, it's armor piercing, so you give up some range in order to get rid of some armor, which I think hands down is worth it because you're playing dwarves. People are going to come to you because you're slow as hell. Dwarf crafted, duh. Dwarves typically don't import human-made guns. And they're also move or fire. So remember that when you're playing against them, when they go, okay, I'm going to swift reform. Yeah, go ahead. You're not shooting. And then, of course, dwarf pistols are 12-inch range, strength 4, armor piercing, dwarf crafted, once again, duh, and they're quick to fire. So that's kind of cool. They got all their tricks and stuff like that still, and they got dwarf crafted for a change. A few other things. Now they have a brace of dwarf pistols. Basically, it works like any other brace of pistols. Not only do they have 2 shots, but now they have what's it called? An extra hand weapon in close combat. So that's kind of neat. And with the extra hand weapon, or with the brace of pistols, since they have multiple shots, remember that they will take the extra negative when they do that. I think maybe quick to fire negates that, but I don't think so. But just it's something to remember because the dwarf ballistic skill is like 3 for the most part, unless it's a unit champion or a character, and then it's like 4. I'm really not overly impressed by that. Maybe for core choices, yeah, I could get there, but when certain characters or rare choices are ballistic skill 3, what's the point in shooting with them? I mean, you need 4s, and if there's any negatives whatsoever, you're not going to hit all that often. I mean, the dwarves, I would have assumed they'd be better shots than that. And anyway, I don't know. What do I know, right? I play an army that doesn't have any shooting. Oath Stones. These are obviously still in the army. Basically, if the character that has the Oath Stone is in a unit, that unit can't choose flee as a charge action, ever, for any reason. Parry saves can be made to the flank or the rear for that unit, so charging in the flank and the rear isn't going to help you anymore. And, what's it called? They must accept all challenges, which works for me. I like it when they accept my challenges, because then I get rolls on the Eye of the Gods. And then, of course, there's the Shield Bearers. Those are the little guys that hold up, the Lords or whatever. But they actually do one. They kind of just combine them all now for the most part. Now the Shield Bearers give the Lord +2 that are armor save, +2 wounds. So you're looking at tyrant level, Dwarf Lord when it comes to wounds. And the Shield Bearers fight with their own stats. So basically, they turned a couple of dwarves into ponies and gave them the demonic mount rule. Now they have +2 that are armor save, +2 wounds, and they're barded because they're dwarves. It's not like they're going to go fast anyway. But yeah, I think that's kind of neat too. Since they wouldn't give them a friggin' horse or anything else to ride, they still gave them a couple of lackeys that'll hold them up on a plate. I guess, if that's your thing. Now I'm going to get into the actual new army choices, and I'm going to start off at the top with their new Dwarf Lords. Basically, it's exactly what you think. I don't want to rattle off the actual stats and everything like that verbatim out of the book, because I'm pretty sure I'll get a cease and desist letter in the mail, and if not, well, I still don't want to take the chance. If you really want to know what their stat line is, I can tell you, like, the Lord is weapon skill 7, and the Thane is going to be weapon skill 6, although the Thane is the hero choice. But really, the way I see it is the pros for like a Dwarf Lord, he can take 125 points of runes, which is the equivalent of 125 points of magic items. Why the hell dwarves get 25 extra points of magic items is a little beyond me, but hey, I guess, since they're short, they need 25 extra points to measure up to regular-sized people. Looking through the runes, the way you can combine them and stuff like that, these guys can be very easily kitted out for offense, defense, anything in between. If you want your Dwarf Lord to be, a gunslinger, there's actually a very easy way to do it. At least they have toughness 5, leadership 10 as a base for the lords. The Thanes are no, Thanes are leadership 10 as well, so that's pretty badass. Yeah, I know dwarves, that's typical, probably normal. I don't have the old dwarf book. I haven't faced them in years, so forgive me if some of this shocks me. But hey, it's my first impressions, not yours. You want your first impressions? Well, put them in the comment section. But they can take guns or crossbows now. I don't know if they could before, but that's kind of cool. And they can afford to, you can afford 2 well-kitted out lords, if not maxed out lords on shield bearers at 2,200 points or more lists easily. Easily. So you can have 2 dwarf lords on shield bearers just having a field day on the battlefield. The cons, in my opinion, are their strength 4 base. That's awful for a lord. I could understand the Thane, but a lord at strength 4, I mean, I've got core choices that do that. A lot of people have core choices that the dwarves have core choices that are strength 4. So I don't fully follow that. That seems kind of lacking for a lord or a hero in my opinion. But again, I'm biased because I use Chaos Horrors. And other than the shield bearers and the O stones, there's really it's not really. There is no mount options for the Dwarf Lord or the Thane. They can take an O stone, they get a shield bearer, or they can put their boots on and walk like everyone else. Again, not overly heroic. I kind of was hoping to see something, for them. I mean, for Christ's sake, Skaven have a bell, a furnace, Goblins have wolves and stuff like that, and they're the 2 main enemies of the dwarves, and the dwarves never thought, you know what, maybe we should be quicker. I mean, the skateboard of Karak 8 Peaks or something like that would be great, but no, they get shield bearers and O stones. I think that GW maybe dropped the ball here a little bit. Maybe you dwarf, fluff nuts out there know something I don't, but that eats at me. I won't lie to you. The next group on my list are the Dragon and Demon Slayers. And basically, they're new. Well, the rules in the book, I don't know if they're new or not, but they're new to me, so they're going to be new in this report. But basically, a Demon Slayer, any ward save made against wounds caused by a Demon Slayer must be rerolled. So basically, a Demon Slayer comes with the other Trickster Shard, which is awesome, because I'm a huge proponent of the other Trickster Shard. And then with a Dragon Slayer, when attacking monsters, the Dragon Slayer's attacks do D3 wounds. So that's cool. I mean, you could literally just kind of send him out on his own to go monster hunting, provided that the monster doesn't just, rip his throat out anyway. But also with the Slayer rules and stuff like that, which I'll get to a little bit later. Sorry if this is a little not sequential or whatever. But with the Slayer special rule, if they die, they get to make an attack now as like their death attack or whatever. It's like just one shot, rolling to hit as normal. So yeah, okay, the dragon kills me, but I still got a chance to do D3 wounds to him if I can hit and wound. So I guess it's like a kind of consolidation thing. I think it's the idea, and I like the idea, is that they're supposed to die heroic deaths. And what's going to be funnier than the ancient Stegodon charging the lone Dragon Slayer, on the table. Impact hits, don't kill him, because if they die to impact hits, they don't get their death throw. But if the ancient Stegodon hits, wounds, and kills him, but just before he goes, the guy does D3 wounds, who does 3 wounds. He had caught some earlier from a cannonball or something, and the Demon Slayer, or the Dragon Slayer at the last second kills the ancient Stegodon, and, everybody at the table will go, "Oh!" And that would be kind of cool. So I can see why they did that. The pros and cons, in my opinion, on these guys, again, this is my opinion. You don't like it, stop the damn tape now. Yeah, the pros, in my opinion, are they're a good character to take if you don't want 2 Dwarf Lords on your list. To be perfectly honest with you, even if you're taking Slayers, I don't see a purpose of taking these guys other than just because they look cool. It'd be fun to take if you were going to take Slayers anyway, but in my opinion, there's no reason to take these guys because a Dwarf Lord is going to do the same thing. Yeah, he can't join the unit of Slayers, but who cares? It's up to you. It gives dwarves access to an unbreakable character for kind of cheap, so that's kind of cool. You've got to kill the guy, but the problem is the guy has no defense whatsoever. He's butt naked. He's all offense, and his initiative sucks, so he's going to die. You're going to take him, and you're going to give those points up. And I know that's the idea with the Slayers and everything like that, but I can't get there tactically in my head. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But if they're your thing, they're badass models, they're badass fluff. It's the Dwarf Mohawk. What can you do? The cons, there's been a few already, but they're all offense, no defense. They take up a hero/lord allotment, which is already pretty competitive, and they can't be the general of the army at all. That actually makes sense, but they can't be your general at all. So you have to take someone else, or you have to choose someone else. So, here you've got this crazy Dragon Slayer running around, but everyone's listening to the unit champion because he's the next, highest level leadership guy, and you didn't take any other characters. So explain that one to me. But, yeah, so just food for thought. These guys right here are the Master Engineers, and their new rules are Artillery Master. Basically, one war machine within 3 inches can use the Engineer's ballistic skill and reroll an artillery die per shooting phase. Just one. And it must be nominated before the war machine shoots. So your opponent does not get to find out that his cannon just misfired and then nominate the Master Engineer's reroll. Before he rolls the dice and fires, he says, okay, the Master Engineer is going to use his Artillery Master on this cannon, on this bolt thrower, on this organ gun. He says it before he gets to find out if it was a good call or not. Remember that. That's going to be important. And if the engineer does use this ability, he cannot shoot his own weapon in that shooting phase. So remember that when you're facing the dwarves. It's one of those know thy enemy situations. If he tries to call it after he rolls that misfire, too bad, pal. Consult your charts because you screwed up. Learn your book. The next rule is entrenchment, and this is actually kind of cool because now their war machines don't. One war machine per engineer in the army can be entrenched, and an entrenched war machine basically means it counts as being in hard cover, and models suffer a -1 to hit it in close combat. If the war machine moves, not pivoting, but if it moves for any reason, or it's destroyed, the entrenchment is gone. And that is cool because now, like, elven bolt throwers aren't just going to snipe your cannons anymore. Although needing a 5 to wound isn't exactly sniping, but it's a hell of a lot harder to hit them now. And I like that. I think that's very intelligent, and it makes a lot of sense. Finally, engineers get the stand back, sir rule. And basically, if an engineer is within 3 inches of a war machine, he gets that look out, sir roll. Just like if there was a lone character hanging out by himself next to, like on foot, next to a unit of infantry of 5 or more rank and file, he gets that 4-up look out, sir. And if it's successful, the hit resolved against a war machine instead. So it'll be harder to snipe the master engineers. Not impossible. I'm still going to try to do it, but it is very doable. So that's actually kind of neat. Gives them a little bit more survivability. The pros, in my opinion, is that it makes war machines more reliable. Ballistic Skill 4 is a lot better than Ballistic Skill 3 on the war machines. It's a dirt cheap hero choice, it really is, and he can take himself some runic weapons and stuff like that. So, you know, something gets close to your machines, you could throw them out there and maybe even hold them off, especially if they're just fast cav or something like that. I mean, he's a hero choice. He's only got 2 attacks, but still a dwarf. You know, he's got ancestral grudge, relentless, resolute. He doesn't have shield wall, but I wouldn't count him out into combat. And if anything else, maybe you could redirect the charge, you know, so that they can't get to the war machines quite as fast. But yeah, a lot of your war machines are Ballistic Skill 3 guys, so Ballistic Skill 4 is a lot better when you're talking about, you know, shaving hairs and stuff like that. The cons, he's very basic stats for a hero. He could probably deal with fast cav or maybe a small unit of skirmishers. Anything more than that, he's cannon fodder. Har har har. Ballistic Skill 4 is still pretty crappy for a hero master engineer. I don't care who you are. This guy is a hero. He is literally called a master engineer. He has done his whole life just, hey, I am working on war machines and tinkering and stuff like that. I fire guns constantly. And his ballistic skill is 4. Really? I mean, I guess he is dirt cheap. You're not paying for ballistic skill 4, but it really kind of makes me disappointed, I guess. And to be honest with you, a lot of the War Machine runes do very similar things the Engineer does. So, I can't really figure out a reason to take him because he's more expensive than any of the runes, and you're going to put the runes on a damn thing anyway. So, what's the point, really? Screw the Master Engineer, take a Thane or a Runesmith, you know? Speaking of Runesmiths and Rune Lords, here they are. And there you've got a couple of new special rules. Well, new to me, so if they're not new, I apologize. But basically, they have something called Forge Fire, and I really like this. A unit joined by a Runesmith or a Rune Lord gains armor piercing. And I know that doesn't sound like a whole hell of a lot, but for taking this dirt cheap, you know, Rune Lord, no upgrade, just hey, he's in the unit, the entire unit now picks up armor piercing. And if you're talking about strength 6 attacks anyway, I mean, -4 to your armor save is brutal, if not completely negating most armor saves. And if you're taking hand weapon shield, a lot of the doors are strength 4. -2 to the armor save, I mean, that's the difference between winning combat and getting broke. So I foresee a ton of Runesmiths and Rune Lords. Damn the Anvils. But yeah, just being thrown in there just for the boost, kind of like Warrior Priest in Empire armies. They've also got Rune Lore. They can now channel Power Dice and Dispel Dice. So basically they have all the stats of a wizard without being able to actually cast spells. They also now have the Anvil of Doom, and I'm just going to go over it with here because the only way to take an Anvil of Doom is to take a Runesmith or a Rune Lord and put him on top of the damn thing. But if you do take a Rune Lord and put him on an Anvil of Doom, he gets this special rule, Ancestral Shield, which gives him a 5-up ward save, which is cool because now you can spend his runic power points on something else rather than a ward save. And it also gives him the rule Locus of Power, which gives you +1 power die and dispel die during your magic phases. He has a strike the runes, which basically, as long as the anvil hasn't moved, the runesmith or rune lord can attempt to cast all 3 of the anvil's bound power spells, which is great. Basically, he's got 3 bound spells, innate bound spells on this anvil. Whoop the effing do. The spells, I gotta be honest, my opinion, they are not all that great. The Rune of Hearth and Home is a power level 3 augment, and basically all friendly units within 24 inches gain immune to psychology, which at first it's like, oh wow, that's really cool, but in my opinion, you're going to have gyrocopters out there. You're going to have, archers and stuff like that out there that are going to be charged potentially by certain things. And if you're not careful and you don't realize that you don't check that 24-inch bubble you're about to give off immune psychology, those bastards aren't going anywhere. They're not going to be able to flee. Redirecting, well, it's still possible. It is just, you're not going to be able to flee as much as you'd like to with your gyrocopters and your bombers and stuff like that. Yeah, sure, they're not going to be fleeing as much, but that could also be a problem because certain units and things that you don't want to get into combat now have to stand. So use that one at your own risk. The next one is the Rune of Oath and Steel. That's a power level 4 augment, and basically a single friendly unit gains +1 armor save until the next magic phase. In my opinion, that's the best one. Basically, your guys with the 3-up or a 4-up or a 5-up now get +1 armor save, and that's actually pretty nice. But it's a single friendly unit. Of course, at power level 3, you can make everybody immune to psychology, but at power level 4, you choose one unit anywhere on the table, and now they have a +1 armor save. Why not? Yeah, let me bump it up to a power level 8, and let me give everybody on the table, that's a dwarf +1 armor save. Stupid Anvil, right? And then, of course, they've got the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, which is power level 5, direct damage, 24-inch spell, and it 2d6 strength 4 hits. Who cares? It's strength 4. Okay, so now they've got a chaff clear out. They've got plenty of shooting already. They don't need Wrath and Ruin. It's a wasted spell. In my opinion, this is all my opinion, and so I can say whatever the hell I want. But yeah, I think that's a wasted spell for dwarves. They have plenty of shooting that they don't have to worry about some useless anvil trying to get off of a spell that can be dispelled at power level 5. But in my opinion, the pros are going to be, it gives the dwarves access to a magic phase. Congratulations, dwarves. Now you actually have access to all 4 phases. Whoop-de-effing do. The 5+ ward save is nice on the anvil, but it's an anchor. You're going to be stuck there, so you better hope you don't get attention by anything too tough, or you're in a lot of trouble. I like that the Runesmith comes with Magic Resistance 1. That's an extra little bonus. And then the Rune Lord comes with Magic Res 2. That's nice. It's free, and really that's the only reason worth taking it, because for the most part, Magic Resistance just isn't cutting it like it should. Granting armor piercing to a unit, though, is amazing, and that is the reason I would take Runesmiths and Rune Lords. Probably not Rune Lords, but Runesmiths if I ran a Dwarf army, just to give my units that armor piercing. I really like that. Plus, the Spellbreaker runes, you basically have 2 Dispel Scrolls. One is a Dispel Scroll, the other one makes it so that not only do you dispel the spell, but on a 4-up you destroy it. So I would also take a couple of Runesmiths for just that reason. Have a couple of Dispel Scrolls, one of which could potentially get rid of, like, Occam's Mind Razor, or, oh gosh, I don't know, Purple Sun, or Pit of Shades, or anything like that. Any of those dwarf killers. The cons, the Anvil of Doom bound spells kind of suck. +1 armor save is nice, but not woohoo nice, and they're expensive. They're way more than what the actual hero or lord cost for an Anvil of Doom. So, is it worth it? No, not in my opinion. Immune to psychology for the army could be as much of a negative as a positive. Gyrocopters that can't flee. Oh crap, I didn't think of that. 2d6 strength 4 hits. I don't understand why. You have an organ gun, you have thunderers, you have quarrellers, you have rangers. There's a lot of shooting that you have that you get without it being able to be dispelled, and it's actually better than strength 4 because it has armor piercing. So I don't know. Maybe you guys know something I don't. Maybe there's something that's just like, oh no, the Anvil of Doom is my failsafe. Maybe you'll see 10 in each army, but personally I think it's a waste. Next is going to be Dwarf Warriors. Dwarf Warriors are exactly what you expect them to be. They're Strength 3, Toughness 4 core choices that are relatively cheap. I have no problem with Dwarf Warriors. I would never take them, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Well, screw it, I'll tell you right now. Longbeards are core choices. They're more expensive, but they're so much better. Dwarf Warriors, the pros are they are a solid core choice. They are your Anvil unit. They can take shields for a solid defense because they have shield wall, and so they have a, what is it? It's going to be a 4-up armor and a 5-up parry. So it's a great anvil brick, I guess. It's just not going to do anything because they're strength 3. Unless they charge, and then yay, they get a 4-up. They can take great weapons, but so can everything else. Yeah, everything else is going to be more expensive. I'll give you that. But everything else is better. So I don't see the purpose of taking Dwarf Warriors. I don't. But they do have Toughness 4. That's always a bonus. Leadership 9 base is outstanding. Shield Wall and Resolute make this unit very effective, but again, the biggest con for me is Strength 3 base. This is a major reason that people don't take like Marauders and stuff like that, because they have access to Chaos Warriors. Strength 3 is like, yay, I can absorb a lot, kind of. I mean, you got a 4-up armor save, let's face it, that doesn't make you invincible. And maybe a 3-up if you take the Anvil of Doom, whoop-de-doo. But anything that's going to wound you at toughness 4, for the most part, you're going to take some serious damage here. And I just don't see the purpose. The Dwarf Warriors are strength 3. I'm not there. I just can't get there with Dwarf Warriors. Except for maybe they're a poor man's unit in core choice, like poor man's filler. But you've got so many better choices in core, I don't see a lot of Dwarf Warriors on the table. Not more than once. I think people learn pretty quick it's a poor choice. Next is the Quarrellers and the Thunderers. Basically, Quarrellers are your crossbow guys, and your Thunderers are your dwarven gun guys. And for the most part, they've got all the different special rules that everything else has. They've got Relentless, they got Resolute, they got Shield Wall, Ancestral Grudge. All of them are Ballistic Skill 3. So really, the only difference between them is going to be range and armor piercing. So they're exact same points. I think one unit, I think Quarrellers can take great weapons. Hang on, I will check my book and let you know for sure, because there's a book review and I'm allowed to do that. But yes, the Quarrellers can take great weapons and shields, and then the Thunderers can take shields. So sure, I guess if your Quarrellers get into combat, you could give them great weapons, and at strength 5, it would, after whatever survives, they can swing back at the enemy and maybe do some damage, especially if they get the army-wide hatred thing. That would be badass. And the Thunderers, you give them shields, and so now they got a parry save with shield wall. So, again, one more reason to not take Dwarf Warriors. Take Quarrellers and Thunderers, give them shields or great weapons, depending on what you would give to Dwarf Warriors, because they can take, Musician, Banner, and Unit Champion if you're feeling froggy. And they're more expensive than the Warriors, I'll give you that, but only by a few points, and they do more. So, I don't know. That's my opinion anyway. And so the pros are both options are strength 4 shots. When it comes to shooting and stuff like that, both of them are going to do strength 4. Thunderers have armor piercing. Quarrellers have 6 inches longer range. The Dwarven Crafted on both of them makes them the ultimate defensive shooting. I'm going to charge you. I'm going to stand and shoot. -1. Kiss my ass. I ain't taking a -1. Quarrellers can take great weapons. Both units can take shields, which makes, combined with shield wall, makes them much more durable. Weapon skill 4 for range units is actually pretty nice. These guys can fight, and they have toughness 4. So the fact that they can shoot, take a charge, and actually have a chance to win with shield wall, or even with great weapons, completely up to you, depending on what you take. I think that you're going to see these guys instead of, Dwarf Warriors, hands down. The cons is Ballistic Skill 3. That really eats at me. It's so low for army fluff-wise that this is what they do, But that's just me. And they are a little expensive at 12 to 14 points each. However, considering they can be Dwarf Warriors with guns, I could see how the points are justified there. And they're your core choice, so, they are a core choice, so why not? Here we go, Longbeards. This is my absolute favorite unit in the book. Not because they're better than any other units, not because of anything other than, the fact that I absolutely love their fluff. The old, grumbly, pissed off dwarves. These guys are the reasons that I love dwarves. Oh, Longbeards. If I could buy you guys drinks, I would. Unfortunately, I have a mortgage to pay. But yes, number one, they're immune to psychology, so awesome. But my favorite new rule they got is Old Grumblers. Basically, every friendly dwarf unit within 6 inches of the Longbeards re-rolls their panic checks, and the fluff literally says that it happens because they go, "Where are you going, Beardling? I will rip your head off. What is wrong with you? You have forgotten the face of your father. Blah blah blah," and they bully them into standing. Gotta love the Longbeards. If you don't love Longbeards, you don't love life, and I feel sorry for you. Because the other great thing is they are a core choice. I would take 625 points straight Longbeards if I played Dwarves, because that's how much I love these guys. They can take shields, they can take great weapons, they can take both. They're immune to psych. They've only got heavy armor. That's the one negative there. I would like to see them with some Grommel armor, but I get it. They're core choices, so what can you do? Their pros are Lord Tremendous stamps this unit approved. I love this unit. Another pro is they are weapon skill 5. Dwarves have access to a weapon skill 5 core choice. That's awesome. Strength 4, toughness 4. With great weapons or shields or both. They're Chaos Warriors with immune to psychology, and they are basically a watered down BSV because everything within 6 inches of them gets to re-roll failed panic checks, and they're cheaper than Chaos Warriors as a core choice. That is amazing. These guys are flawless. I have no negatives to say about them other than maybe I would say because they have heavy armor instead of Grommel armor, but I do understand why they only have heavy armor as opposed to Grommel armor. They're a core choice, and they're probably trying to keep the points down because, you know, if you have these guys in Ironbreakers, what's the point in taking Ironbreakers, right? But that's my opinion. If you're going to play Dwarves, look into the Longbeards. You will not regret it. And if you do, Dwarves aren't for you. Hammerers. I like these guys too. Not as much as I like Longbeards, but they're in a different choice. They're special choices, so I like Hammerers. They're stubborn, so basically dwarves now have their own version of White Lions, and they have a special rule called Kingsguard. And basically, if the general is in the unit of Hammerers, any hammer can accept the challenge, which is outstanding. And I'm just taking this from a Warriors of Chaos standpoint. They have to issue challenges. So you've got your kitted out lord, and you're like, oh man, I don't want to fight this, you know, crazy guy. And then one of the hammers guys doesn't have to be a unit champion. There's no point in taking a unit champion. Well, I guess a unit champion and your unit of hammers can take a 25-point runic weapon. But what's the point in that? I mean, if maybe it's to each their own, I'll give you that. But the hell with that. I would save my 10 points and put it into the banner or something like that, because they can take a 75-point runic banner, which is awesome considering the way you can bounce around runes on this thing. So yeah, they come with great weapons. They come with heavy armor. I would have preferred it when Grommel armor, considering, you know, they're Kingsguard, but, you know, I guess Grommel armor is hard to make or whatever. But yeah, they're pretty badass, and the fact that they can take challenges, you never have to decline. You okay, eat another guy, that's fine. Now my general is going to eat your unit alive because he's got 125 points worth of runic items on him that are just going to eat face. Their pros, in my opinion, are a solid, stubborn special choice. The unit champion can take 25 points of runic weapons, magic weapon runes, whatever you want to call them. A 75-point allowance for a banner. That's a great unit for a general to be in. That unit is literally made for the general to go into, hands down. They're not even trying to, you know, be coy about it. The cons, in my opinion, are heavy armor, no Grommel. Okay, now you get to give your argument, well, that's why you take an Anvil of Doom. Well, that is a huge point sink, because, let's face it, hammers are expensive naked. I'm not going to, like I said, I'd rather not say the points because I don't want to cease and desist order on my book review. But they are expensive per model. And you got to factor into the fact that, okay, maybe you do take a unit champion plus 25 extra points of magic items. You take 75 point runic mana. You take 20 to 40 of these guys. Up you're looking at a 600-700 point unit. And now I got to take another 200 points of Anvil for support. You're looking at almost 1,000 points for just one unit that you're going to put. I mean, yeah, you got your characters in there and stuff like that, but that is a eggs in one basket unit. It's going to be a hard nut to crack, but if it cracks, game over. So again, it's just one of those things. Shields can be taken, but they're useless in close combat. Always strikes last with 5-up armor save. You're going to lose a lot of these guys. My problem with that is they do have shield wall, but they have a great weapon. You have to use the great weapon because it's a special item. So you give them shields so they can endure, I guess, but they can never. They have the shield wall special rule, but they can never use their shields in close combat because they have to use their great weapons per the BRB, and there's nothing in this book that says they don't have to use their great weapon if they don't want to, so you're kind of screwed there. In my opinion, if you do take hammers, it's not a bad choice, but you're going to have to take a large amount of them because you're going to put your characters in there and they're going to catch attention. Magic, shooting, whatever they got, and so your hammer unit, since it's only got a 5-up armor for the most part, maybe at best a 4-up or a 3 if you take the Anvil and get the spell off, you're going to have problems with this one, I'm telling you. So if you're going to make it, you got to be able to support it correctly. That's my opinion. Next are the Ironbreakers, and I don't honestly expect to see a lot of these guns on the table. Maybe. I'm not. I shouldn't say it exactly like that, but I don't know. They have this new special rule called the Shield Wall of Gromrel, and basically they always get a 1-up parry save. Just period. You're in their flank, we get a parry save. You're in our rear, we get a parry save, and it's a 5-up parry save. So that's kind of cool. They've also got the Cinder Blast bomb that the unit champion can take. Basically, it fires like a stone thrower and can move and shoot, but you can't march. It's got a 2 to 8 inch range, strength 3, 6 in the hole, armor piercing, D3 wounds, under the hole. But on a misfire, you roll a d6. On a 2-up, it's just a dud. You forgot to light the fuse. But on a 1, you center it into your unit and you take all those wounds. You're toughness 4, so other than the guy under the hole, you should be okay. But it's kind of a son of a gun, In my opinion, they've got Grommel armor. They've got shields. Duh, they're Ironbreakers. Their unit champion can take, you can take one Ironbreaker into an Ironbeard, which is basically a unit champion, and for free, you can give him a brace of Drakefire pistols instead of a shield, and he can also take Cinder Blast bombs for a handful of points. Musician standard. They can only take up to 50 points in Runic banner and stuff like that, so they're not quite as doted on as the hammers, but they're a lot harder to hurt with a 3-up armor, 5-up parry. So they're a very solid Anvil unit. I get that. My problem with them is just like with everything else. You're going to need a bunch of them. They're only strength 4, strength 5 if they charge. They're your Anvil unit. These guys are not taking down dragons, and you're going to need a lot of them because you're going to lose some of them. Although it'll be a lot harder. They can really take a pounding. So maybe you will see more of these guys. I don't know. But the pros, in my opinion, are they have the Gromrel armor, and that is very nice. Shield Wall of Gromrel rule makes them Dwarf Warriors, basically, but even in the flank or the rear, so they're always going to have that save. The Runic standard, they might actually be better than hammers. They just wouldn't. Well, they could be stubborn with the runes. So really, it just kind of comes down to personal preference, because the hammers will be strength 6, always striking last, and Ironbreakers will be strength 5, striking in initiative 2. So you got to take that for what it's worth, and plan accordingly. But that's kind of nice. The cons is that Cinder Blast bomb is pretty meh. And with a 2 to 8 inch range, the possibility of the bomb scattering back onto you, because it fires like a stone thrower, so it's not like you can stand and shoot with it or anything like that, but the possibility of that thing scattering back and hitting your unit are pretty likely. Unless you roll a direct hit, that son of a gun's coming back at you, or into your army somewhere, and I mean, way to botch your throw, but kind of a rough thing to do there. Okay, I'm going to throw at these guys, and I just took out 4 of my guys. That sucks. Next are the Iron Drakes. This is the new unit for the dwarves, and I got to be honest with you, Well, I'll get to that in a second. They have this new thing called the Drake Gun. It's an 18-inch range, strength 5, armor piercing, dwarven crafted, flaming attacks with quick to fire rule. So they're very good at shooting a lot. They've also got something that unfortunately isn't available to anything else in the army as far as I can see. Forge proven Grommel armor. It gives them a 4-up armor save, a 6-up ward, and a 2+ ward save versus flaming attack or flaming wounds. Sounds a lot like dragon armor to me. Why, in the name of all that is dwarvy, don't my characters have access to that? Why doesn't a Dwarf Lord or a Thane or a Runesmith or a Rune Lord have access to forge-proven Grommel armor? I don't get that. Maybe it's in the fluff. I don't care. That's ridiculous. Brace of Drakefire pistols basically gives him an extra attack in close combat. 12-inch range, strength 5, armor piercing, dwarven crafted, flaming attack, or flaming, multiple shots, 2, and they're quick to fire. Those are really nice. Those I like for the stand and shoot option. That is very cool. And they have something else that I like, the Trollhammer Torpedo. 24-inch range, strength 8, flaming D3 wounds, slow to fire, upgrade for the unit. So I like that they basically have given them a really badass bolt thrower in this unit. So cool. But dwarves can get bolt throwers, so and they can make them flaming. They'd just be like strength 6 or 7. So okay, I guess. The Iron Drakes, their pros are they now have access to Sisters of Avalorn unit with dragon armor. Cool. The Trollhammer Torpedo gives you a hell of a bolt thrower attack. I mean, that is a badass friggin' upgrade. Really useful for dealing with anything with regen. Trolls, chimeras, hell, anything with multiple wounds that's stupid enough to get within 24 inches of this thing has a real problem on its hand. Provided they can hit with their ballistic skill of, are you ready for this? 3! Which brings me to my biggest gripe with the dwarves. Ballistic skill 3 on everyone but the unit champion is pathetic for a rare choice. These guys are rare choices. Give them ballistic skill 4. The unit champion has ballistic skill 4. I don't think the unit champion is the one that is going to actually fire off the Trollhammer Torpedo. No, okay, yeah. So the Iron Warden, the unit champion is. So okay, he's got ballistic skill 4 for the Trollhammer Torpedo. All right, so that's a little bit better, but come on. You couldn't give the regular Iron Drakes ballistic skill 4 and the unit champion ballistic skill 5. Really? I mean, come on. These guys, this is what they do. But whatever. My other big con with this thing is you can see them in the picture there. These things are ugly. These models are ugly. And, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that the person that made them really put their heart and soul into it. But I have never seen a more monotonous, ugly unit in this edition of Warhammer ever. They've done a really good job so far. The best thing I can say about this unit is the banner looks cool. Other than that, the unit looks just like a bunch of mongoloids in crappy armor, not happy with the way the unit looks at all. And that alone would deter me from buying them. I know, I'm vain, but it's what I know. Forge proven Grommel armor. Why isn't that available to everybody? Why can't my characters get that? Is it really... Come on, guys. Share your clothes. This is unacceptable. And the 18-inch range kind of sucks because they're going to get a shot or two and then they're going to get charged. And, I mean, don't get me wrong. They have Resolute, Relentless, and Ancestral Drudge, but they've only got, 4-up armor and a 6-up... Well, okay, that's the stupidest thing I've ever said. They got a 4-up armor and a 6-up ward, so they're semi tough. They can stand up with Leadership 10. It's not like they're going anywhere. But, I just can't get there with them like I probably should. Next is a very popular unit, Slayers. They've got a bunch of cool new, special rules. And the first one that I will go over is Death Blow. When a Slayer dies, he gets to make a single attack before he's removed from the table. You hit and wound is normal, any of your runic items or whatever, the strength, all of that stays the same. Basically, it's just like a normal close combat attack. The only difference is the model gets picked up afterwards. The only time this doesn't happen is if the unit or the model dies from impact hits. Stomps, breath weapon, close combat, that they all get them, of course. Anything else like that in close combat, they get their Death Blow, which is very cool. They also have the Slayer rule. They ignore penalties to strength and always wound on a 4+ unless they need a lower result in order to wound. So, you know, the needing 5s and 6s to wound, that's all gone. They need 4s, although the Slayer's strength is still used for the armor save penalty. So if they're strength 4 and they wound you on a 4 up, you're only taking -1 to their armor save. So that kind of balances it out. That makes sense. They also have something called Slayer Axes. At the start of each combat, choose whether the unit will use 2-hand weapons or a great weapon. So do you want more attacks or do you want stronger attacks? I like that because if you know you're going to get pulverized, you go great weapons so that all your attacks that you get as you're picking up models are at strength 6 because they are base 4. No, I'm sorry, they are base 3, so strength 5. The unit champion, or Giant Slayer, is strength 4. But the cool thing about that is you can upgrade any amount of them, any amount of Slayers to Giant Slayers, only it's really expensive to do that. So if you get too carried away with it, you'll have a 1,000-point unit that's going to die rather quickly. And the last rule is Slayer Cult. Only Slayer characters can join Slayer units. Slayer characters cannot be the Army General, which we went over earlier. In my opinion, the pros are these Slayers are unbreakable. So when they get into combat, you have to your enemy has to kill them or be killed by them. They're not going anywhere. The death blow rule makes them very useful. It's going to be a kamikaze attack, but it could very well win you the game. Having the option of either doing extra hand weapons to chew through like Skaven slaves or goblins or something like that, or something with a low armor save, is very cool. Or having great weapons so that when you run into something like a Stegodon or something, you know, with a higher toughness, Demon Prince, okay, cool, he just killed, you know, 8 of my guys, but I get 8 attacks now on top of whatever attacks I get after it's all said and done. So that's very cool. I love the Slayer models, so that's a pro. And you can take multiple Giant Slayer upgrades, which I also see as a pro. Although it is really expensive to do it, it's very cool that you could literally have a unit of unit champions. The cons, low initiative and no saves means a lot of casualties. Sure, you get your attacks for it, but you're losing models, expensive models, by the handful, literally as quick as you can take them off. They are not cheap by any stretch of the word. You'll need to take large units in order for them to have any real effect in combat, unless you're just doing like a spearhead shot where, you know, you have just take a unit of 5, just run them out there, and you're hoping to put wounds on something before they die. They can take Banner, Musician, they can upgrade any amount into Giant Slayers, and each Giant Slayer can take a Runic weapon up to 25 points, so you can have a unit of 5 Giant Slayers just running out doing their thing. And they can take a Runic Standard up to 50 points. So this could be a real beefy unit, or this could just be like a little dive in there and try to, you know, get a glorious death. It's really a versatile unit, and I would probably run a few units if I played these guys. Next are Miners. Never been a huge fan of Miners. The candle on their heads always kind of deterred me from even thinking about using them. But anyway, they have this special rule called Underground Advance. Basically gives them the Ambusher special rule. However, the turn they come up, you know, they get placed on a table, they're in soft cover. So that's actually kind of cool. It gives them a little bit more survivability when they turn up, you know, right in front of the unit of archers or whatever the hell they're about to try to get a hold of. They also have something called blasting charges. The unit champion can take them, and it's one use only. I'm sorry, not the unit champion, but the Miners. They can take blasting charges. 2 points, or damn it, oh well, 2 points per model, and basically it's a 4-inch range, strength 4, armor piercing, flaming attack that's quick to fire. They come up, they turn, they throw a whole bunch of their blasting charges, kill a bunch of the models, and then, you know, next turn either charge it or it flees away from them. So that's kind of cool. They come up and they throw a bunch of dynamite at you. And of course, the steam drill has made an appearance once again. You get to reroll your failed arrival die for the Miners ambushing rule, and it adds +3 strength and always strikes last to the unit champion that's equipped with it. In my opinion, the pros for these guys are the old faithful dwarf ambushers are back. If you liked your Miners, you don't have to throw them away because they're still here. Blasting charges are very nice. I like the idea of jumping up and blowing stuff up and then, you know, just diving in. The steam drill is very nice as always. That thing has always been brutal. And of course, the addition of soft cover when they come onto the table is a very nice addition. I actually very much agree with that. The cons are the Miners are strength 3 base. Not a huge fan with that. They do have great weapons, but again, they're going to be a smaller unit. You're not going to take these guys in units of 20, and if you do, well, prove me wrong. Go for it. But they've only got heavy armor, they've got great weapons, they can't take shields, so you're looking at a 5-up save, and yeah, they'll be strength 6 on the if they charge, which these guys could actually make the charge, but more than likely you're going to be charged with the miners once they come up, unless you place them very well. So really, it's a gamble. I don't really see it as worth it, especially with a strength 3 base. Blasting charges are 1 use only. That kind of sucks, but in all fairness, once they pop up, they're probably only going to get 1 chance to shoot, so it does kind of make sense, I guess. And are they really needed with all the Dwarven shooting available? Do you really need ambushers? You've got scouts with the Rangers, and that might actually work out better for you. But speaking of Rangers, let's go over to them. The Rangers, I honestly don't fully understand this unit. I guess it has to do with like Bugman and stuff like that, his fluff. They do have great weapons. They get throwing axes. They get a dwarf crossbow. So I don't know why you would ever use the throwing axes, other than maybe like being charged. But dwarven crossbow. Anyway, dwarven crossbow has dwarven crafted, so you don't have to worry about negatives anyway. But whatever. That's just me. They can take a full command, and they can actually take shields now. So that's kind of cool. But the funny part is they don't have shield wall as one of their rules. So maybe they missed that in the thing. They do have relentless, resolute, and they're scouts, but whatever. But I have another gripe though. The Rangers are ballistic skill 3. Other than the unit champion, who is ballistic skill 4. What the hell is the point in taking a rare choice that's dedicated to shooting if their ballistic skill is average? That's not a rare choice. That should be special at worst. But I don't understand the point in Rangers. Maybe it's because I'm a Warriors of Chaos tactically minded individual, and by tactically minded is I get really, really lucky when I win. But I don't see the point in the Rangers other than fluff or a Bugman, bunker or something like that. I just can't get there. Other than the Scout special rule, though, I don't really see why anyone would take Rangers, other than you just really like the guys. I can't get there. I don't expect to see many on the table. I've been wrong before. I'd be fine with being proven wrong, but honestly, if I saw Rangers on the table, I would giggle as I ignored them completely and probably just eventually sent like something small to deal with them, because I just don't see them as a threat. Next is the Dwarven Artillery. Nothing's really changed here, other than the fact that the organ gun now has to roll to hit. And I don't know if it was always like this. I don't think it was, but Dwarven War Machines are all stubborn, and it's stubborn 9, no less. That's very cool. But if you don't take Dwarf War Machines, I think you're missing the point of a Dwarven army. Yeah, you do have other options, but Dwarven War Machines are probably some of the best in the game, so why wouldn't you take at least one? When matched up with an engineer, they're awesome. And when given the right runes, they're game winners on their own. Seriously, one good shooting phase with your artillery with the right runes and the right situation, you've got the game without moving forward at all, which is good because dwarves are terrible at moving forward. The cons are they did get more expensive, and now your organ gun has to roll to hit. That's not a con for me. I'm thrilled that you actually have to roll to hit now, but instead of in the dwarf player's perspective, I'm sure that really sucks for them, and you're not going to see one single tear shed for you by me. Next is going to be the Gyrocopter, and these things, I love these models. I might not play dwarves, but I'm going to buy one of these models one day just to have it. They have a 4-up armor save thanks to the armored copter rule, which I think is a little low, but what the hell do I know, right? And they also have the new rule Dive Bomb. Once per game, you nominate an enemy unit that you moved over in a movement phase. That unit takes an artillery die worth of hits at strength 3 armor piercing. If the Gyrocopter dive bombs it, if it uses the dive bomb rule, it can't also shoot in this turn. However, if you roll a misfire on that, the Gyrocopter immediately takes, I believe, a strength 6 hit or something like that with no armor save. And you kind of waste your one time, because it's a once per game dive bomb thing. You don't get to use it multiple times, which I guess kind of makes sense because it's not really a bomber. They strapped a couple on there just because. But I would have liked to see it being able to be used a couple more times. Maybe like on a 4-up, but in a perfect world, I guess. But yeah, if the misfire is rolled, it just takes a single wound with no armor save allowed. So it's got 3 wounds, so it's not like it's in terrible danger. And it's got its trusty steam gun, which is its strength 3 teardrop template armor piercing hit shot thing, which is great for killing elves. I like this thing. In my opinion, the pros are you can take 6 of these bad boys in a army that is 2,999 points or less. 6 of these bad boys. I would love to do the Air Force Dwarven thing with them, and they're really cheap considering they're a special choice, so I like that. The ability to dive bomb is really cool. I really like that they can do it. Even if it is only once per game, that is pretty tough. And the new models are fantastic. I really like their new models. Everything is armor piercing about them, and it's a great chaff unit that the dwarves desperately need. The cons, in my opinion, are they have a low armor save. That's kind of made up with their toughness 5, but 4-up armor, I mean, I would expect at least a 3-up. Maybe I'm just spoiled with warriors, but I would expect at least a 3-up. The upgrade, the brimstone gun or whatever, kind of sucks. Even for a free upgrade, it's D3 shots, so you might only get 1, and you still have to take the negative for multiple shots when you're trying to hit with it, so I don't know. I mean, maybe somebody will take it and prove me wrong. It is strength 5, but it's and an armor piercing, flaming attacks, quick to fire, so if you get charged, I guess you could use it, but I don't know. It's not something I think I would see other than, like the steam gun. I would probably use that more than anything else. But the other con is you can only dive bomb with it once per game. And it's a weak con, I know, but I am going to chalk it up as a con because that actually eats at me. Next up is the Gyro Bomber, and I do like this model. This is definitely something. I will buy another Gyrocopter kit just so I can get a Gyro Bomber, because I love this model. If I played Dwarves, I would have 2 in every army that I played, just because I like them that much. They also have nothing but a 4-up armor save, but they have the special rule Bombing Run. And basically, it's the same as the dive bomb rule, only you use the large template, which scatters like a stone thrower. If it misfires, it consults a Gyro Bomber misfire chart, which really isn't all that bad, unless, of course, you roll a 1. But hey, if you roll a 1 on a misfire chart, you've already pissed off fate as it is. However, after everything is resolved, after the large template is landed and you divvy out wounds like you're supposed to, you roll a d6. On a 4-up, the bomb scatters a further d6 inches. That's right, it could hit directly again, right where you put it. And you use the small template this time, however, and then you resolve it at strength 3, 6 under the hole, d3 wounds under the hole. So basically, once per round, you could fly this thing over a unit and just harass it to death. With these double template things, strength 3s, 6 armor piercing hits and stuff like that. I think it's armor. Yeah, it is armor piercing. And then multiple wounds on there. You could literally bounce over monsters and kill them all day. You would have a field day with this thing. I love this thing. And on top of all of that, it's got something called a clatter gun. It's a 24-inch range, strength 4, armor piercing, dwarven crafted, 4 shooting, quick to fire gun. I absolutely love this thing. They made this thing with me in mind. That's what I'm going to tell you. The pros, it's a badass model. Bombing Run is a freaking amazing thing. You could literally not take war machines if you wanted, if you took 2 Gyro Bombers and a handful of Gyrocopters, and be perfectly fine. People would still be pissed because you brought a gun line. The clattering gun is amazing. I love this thing. Not overly expensive for what it does. I think they priced it exactly right. I would run 2 if I had dwarves. The cons, again, the 4-up armor save hurts, and you can only take 2 unless you play over 3,000 points. Oh, I would take 8 of these things if I could. I love these things. They are full of win. They just... okay, here's a good reason to take a couple of Anvils of Doom, so you could give these guys a 3-up armor save, so they don't get, shot down by friendly fire. They are toughness 5, so that's something, but, still. And now we get to the ancestral heirlooms. These are weapons and armor and stuff like that. These are their magic items and stuff like that. They have very few. None of them, in my opinion, are really all that great. There's a couple that are like, oh, neat, but for the most part, meh. The Hammer of Karak Draz, or however the hell you say that. gives the character that wields it a +3 initiative, and if the enemy takes a wound from this weapon, their initiative goes down to 1 till the end of the turn. Maybe I'm missing something. Please let me know if I'm missing something, but how in the God's name is that useful at all? Oh no, I'm really slow temporarily. Who cares? For the points that it costs, I don't see why in God's name you would ever take this POS weapon. What the hell, GW? Talk to me here, guys, because I need help. I don't get it. The next one will be the Red Axe of Karak 8 Peaks. This one lets you reroll failed to hit, to wound roll, and to wound rolls against in close combat versus orcs and goblins and Skaven. The Ver also causes terror against orcs and goblins and Skaven. This is a very cool weapon to take if you always fight orcs and Skaven. Otherwise, it's completely useless. I would pass. I don't make armies that are specifically geared for specific other armies. I do an all-comers list. So this weapon to me is useless, but if you play a lot of orcs and goblins and Skaven, why would you take dwarves without that weapon? The next is the Magnificent Armor of Borak Beetlebrow. Basically, it gives you a 2-up armor save and a 3-up ward versus all wounds that are strength 6 or higher. Not bad, but for the points, I could probably make something better with the runes, since all the characters can take an insane amount of runes. I don't see why you would take this armor. I just don't. You could give yourself a 4-up ward against everything, as opposed to just strength 6. So that's my opinion. Next is the Silver Horn of Vengeance. 1 use only, which is fine. Basically, units within 6 inches gain devastating charge. Also, once used, the blower causes fear in elves. Anything that scares elves is a cool item in my opinion, but it's kind of expensive considering you're going to be wanting to put a lot of points in, your point allotment in runes, because you do share ancestral heirlooms with your point allowance for runes. And it's situational because it's all the units within 6 inches, so maybe 2 units, possibly 3, but your movement 3 for the most part. So unless it's like all the stars have aligned and it's a perfect storm scenario for you, you're not going to make a lot of your charges. And so I just don't see this item being overly useful unless you just want to scare elves, which is fine, but they've got the leadership to deal with that. Just my opinion. The next item is one that I actually like, the Fire Ring of Thori. The bearer gains a Strength 4 Flaming Breath weapon attack. This I could see people using. It's very nice. It's a little expensive in my opinion, but it's Flaming Breath. I like it. I like it a lot. And last but not least is their 100-point Banner of Lost Holds. All models in the unit reroll failed to wound in close combat. Not bad. Way overpriced for what it does. Way overpriced. A Dark Elf Cauldron does the same thing, only with all to wounds if you're within 6 inches of the stupid thing. And it's for a lot less. You might occasionally see this. Somebody I could see designing a unit around it or whatever, but you kill the BSB because he's the only one that's going to be able to take it. And okay, great. Now you're dead. And that was easy. Now you don't have that 100-point banner or your BSB anymore because you can't give him any runic items or anything like that if he takes a magic banner. So maybe you'll see 1 or 2 people use it, and after they get, face curb stomped, they'll stop taking it. That's my opinion. Next are the runic rules. Basically, these are the rules for using the runes because there are a lot of them. Basically, no items can have more than 3 runes on it. So if your weapon, 3 runes top. Your armor, your talisman, you can only have 3 runes on each of them. It's the rule of 3. Next is only weapon runes can go on weapons, armor runes on armor, banner on banners. You get the idea. Don't try to put a talisman rune on your on your axe. Somebody's going to come out and slap you in the mouth. Number 3, only 1 item per combination of runes per army. So if you take rune A, B, and C on your Lord, you'd have to take runes A, B, and F on your other characters, because if you did A, B, and C again, that would be illegal. That's not the way it's allowed. It's the rule of pride. So if you take rune A on this guy's armor, you can't just take rune A on the next guy's armor. You'd have to take rune A and rune B on the next guy's armor, or you'd be in violation of rule 3. And when you break the 3rd law, people break your spine, and you don't want that. You need the spine to get around. And number 4, Master Runes can only be used once per army, and only 1 Master Rune per item. So if you take a Master Rune on your axe on your general, you cannot use the Master Rune on your Thane, no matter what, even if you do combine it with other runes, or, you know, different combination. It's just not allowed. Master Runes can only show up once. They're too powerful. It's Jealous Runes. And then there's another rule, but who cares about that one? It doesn't really apply. If you understand the first 4, you're good to go. I am not going to go over all the runes. First of all, this review is already going to be well over an hour as it is. Number 2, if you really want to know what the runes are, go buy the friggin' book. It's definitely worth it. It's a very well-made book. It's a very well-written book. I enjoy it. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it. The fluff alone is worth the $40, $50, whatever you're going to spend on it. 112 if you're in Australia. But there are a billion runes, and I'm not going over them. The crazy combos that are going to be able to be made by these. I mean, I've already made a couple just screwing around. I'm not going to play the dwarves, but I'll get to that in a minute. But some of the combinations that I've just come up with, just screwing around, it actually makes me kind of want to just play the characters. So I'm going to share those with you guys, and if any of my dwarven listeners out there or subscribers out there want to use some of these or doctor them in any way, shape, or form, by all means, do it. But I made a couple. Here's a few kits that I came up with. Dwarf Lord on Shield Bearers with a Dwarven Pistol, Great Weapon, Master Rune of Smiting, 2 Runes of Fortitude, a Rune of Stone, and a Rune of Furnace. Basically, this is a Dwarf Lord that has a 1-up armor save, 5-up ward, toughness 6, 5 wounds, strength 6, strength 7 if he charges, and does d6 wounds in close combat. He also has a 2-up ward versus flaming if he runs into another dwarf with like some flaming attacks or whatever, because there are a lot in this army. My second kit was a Dwarf Lord on Shield Bearers with a Great Weapon, Dwarven Pistol, Master Rune of Snorri, and 3 Runes of Iron. Basically, this is a Dwarf Lord that has 6 wounds at toughness 6 with a 5-up regen, strength 6 that always hits on a 2-up, and try to kill this guy in combat. I dare you. And he's under 300 points. That is a terrifying friggin' guy right there. Kit number 3 is a Runesmith with a shield, the Rune of Spellbreaking ×2, and a Rune of Stone. Basically, this is a 2-up armor save Runesmith that gives armor piercing to the unit, allows you to not only stop a spell, but destroy it on a 4-up. And not a difficult kit to figure out, but it's powerful enough and useful enough for the dwarves that I figured I would mention it on here just to try to get it out there. The Runesmith gives that armor piercing to the unit. Spell breaking is a dispel scroll, and on a 4-up, it'll kill the spell. So you have a 50-50 chance of getting rid of that Purple Sun, or Pit of Shades, or Occam's Mind Razor, or Dreaded 13th spell, or whatever spell you really, really, really don't want going off on your infantry guys. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, guys, my overall first impression of the dwarves is they've got everything that they had before. They've got some new cool rules. I really like the ancestral grudge rule where they could potentially hate your entire army. I like that. I think it's cool. Their shield wall, resolute, relentless, all that stuff is pretty cool. That makes them a lot more viable. I like that, especially now that their points have gone up. They needed something. So the potential for the entire army, especially to hate your entire army, is amazing. I like the way this army's potential is. Relentless is nice and all, but with movement 3, who the hell cares if you're march blocked or not? Go ahead, move your 3 extra inches. Woohoo! In my opinion, they are now very well balanced. Their points are now on par with the other hardback books, and I think we're going to see a lot of really good fights against these guys. I'm thrilled that this book is finally out. Nothing really new, other than the Gyrocopters and, yeah, the Iron Drakes, the Sisters of Avalorn with beards. They're cool. I like the Gyrocopters. I like the Gyro Bombers. But there was no real, oh my god, addition to the army. The Gyro Bombers were close, but they weren't like Cauldron of Blood close. They weren't Demigriff wow. They're oh cool, I've got a 4-up armor save, toughness 5, chaff unit that once some dwarven shooting or elven shooting or a magic missile hits me enough, I'm going to explode and die. So nothing over the top that wasn't already in the book. You know, the infantry got better because of like Resolute and Shield Wall, but for the most part, you're gonna see a bunch of armored infantry guys slowly go across the table and get charged, and then it'll be a dice game. Dwarf Lords are still going to be tough as hell. They have not lost their reputation. They are still going to be one of the most feared generals out there. And with the point cost that they cost now, you're going to be able to have 2 kitted out Dwarf Lords in any army over 2,200 points. So when you're facing dwarves, find out where their generals are and just try to irresistible force your meanest spell through as quick as you can. Anything with initiative is what I'm going to be looking towards, because holy God, these guys are going to be tough. I'm looking forward to fighting them, though. I think that'll be a lot of fun. The combinations people are going to find with the runes are going to be amazing. I predict a lot of illegal combinations, especially on the internet, before March, and this is all about halfway through February. So really watch for that, guys. When you're playing your dwarven opponents, stuff like that, make sure that they're doing everything legit. You know, if it seems too good to be true, there's a very good possibility it's perfectly legal, but go over it, you know, especially in the first few months of the book being out. You know, if this combo seems a little bit over the top, it probably is. Well, okay, let me say, not a little bit over the top, but like way over the top. The Anvil of Doom, kind of weak now, in my opinion. I guess that's about par. It was overpowered before. Now it's milquetoast. I don't even know how else to describe it. None of the bounce spells are really all that great. I could see the purpose in them, with the exception of Magic Missile. I don't understand what the hell is Strength 4, 2d6 Strength 4. Who the hell cares? Yeah, cast it. I'm more worried about your Thunderers. I just don't see the Anvil of Doom being all that big, especially now that it can be dispelled. Oh no, I better save my dice to stop. Oh wait, no, you've got 3 bounce spells. Whoop-de-frickin-do. But I don't know. I just don't see the purpose in bringing one. Runesmiths and Rune Lords don't need anvils anymore to be useful. Just putting them in the unit gives them the ability to gives the unit armor piercing, and with the Rune of spell breaking, you know, ×2 or ×1, that's the reason to take Runesmiths, not for an anvil. I'm really, really disappointed that the dwarves didn't get any kind of monstrous cav or monsters or cavalry or anything big. I mean, yeah, they got a bomber, the Gyro Bomber or whatever, but that's yay. I wanted something centerpiece. I wanted something that my army could revolve around. You know, I've got a Demon Prince in my army. I've got a Mutalith in my army. I have a War Shrine in my army. You know, ogres, they have their big monsters now. They have, you know, their chariot cannons. You know, demons have their what's it called, the soul grinders. You know, Empire have their demigriffs and their steam tanks. Orcs and goblins have their Arachnarok spider. You know, Skaven have their bells and their furnaces and their doom wheels and their abominations. Every army has this big, cool centerpiece model that they can field now, except for dwarves. Dwarves got the poop end of the stick in this one, and I don't understand it. There was so much potential. You know, a super grudge thrower, a mega cannon, you know, golems, anything, and they didn't get anything. You know what? I know a lot of people are complaining about Bear Cav. I'd have been cool with Bear Cav. I really would have. But no, they don't have a centerpiece model, and that's the biggest deterrent for me playing this army. There's nothing exciting about it. I've got a bunch of infantry that are rock solid, that are gonna slowly wait for you to charge them, because they're movement 3. Movement 3 infantry list will get boring fast. What are you doing? I'm trudging forward and shooting at you. For flavor, I brought an anvil, and just because I like to hurt myself. I see a lot of gun lines or solid slow breaks advancing across the field, or a combination of the two. You know, there's some balance maybe. It's just not my thing. I know I play Warriors of Chaos, but we move faster, and we have magic, and we have flyers, and we have monsters, and I mean, hell, I even have a Hell Cannon if I really want a shooting phase. I have Marauder Horsemen if I really want a shooting phase of some sort of significance, which I don't. But my point is, they're going to be as two-dimensional as they've always been, and that's a little disappointing. I was hoping for more. I was hoping for a centerpiece, a big something, a big model. Dwarves deserve that, and I feel they were shortchanged. There is a lot of talk of people taking 6 Gyrocopters and 2 Gyro Bombers in a 2,500 point list. However, I don't see how that will work considering you still need to take larger infantry units in order to keep some of them around till round 6 with a low initiative and stuff like that. Unless you take stuff that's, heavily, accepting, casualties and stuff like that. Sure, okay, your Ironbreakers, even, your Longbeards and stuff like that, things that can take with the shield wall. I get that. Okay, so yeah. I can see how that would work. That would be really cool to see, 8 friggin' gyros running around shooting stuff up or whatever. But I think your infantry would really hurt. But I would love to play against that list. I think it would be kind of fun to see. Should make for some great close combat games. If close combat is your thing and it's mine, I think you're really going to enjoy playing against dwarves because they have to eventually get you into combat. So if you're looking for a good close combat game, Wood Elves beware. But yeah, everyone else, you're really going to enjoy this, I think. But I cannot wait to get my first game in against them. Hopefully in the next few days I'll go back up to the store and there'll be people ready. I love to see how the new Army special rules actually work out on the table. I've watched a couple of battle reports that are already out, and to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of mistakes were made, but that's going to happen because it's a new Army book. A lot of people are forgetting to roll the ancestral grudge thing. But it's just one of those things where it's like I'm really curious to see how people are going to react and how the dwarves are going to start manifesting on the table now that they have like Relentless and Resolute and Shield Wall. So for the most part, I'm not going to start playing dwarves, but I respect the people that will. I still like the book, but it doesn't have any real pizzazz, any real wow factor in it. The Gyro Bomber is a definite B- there, but I need that A. I need at least an A- on the thing that I'm going to use and center my army around. So that's just my opinion, and that's what all this is my first impression. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for this Army book review. It's really long-winded and stuff like that, but it's an Army book review. There's a lot to go over. I did skip a few things, just for time and because I didn't care. But I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Please, not only about the Army book review, but just on the Army book itself. How you feel about it, what your kits are. Share them in the comments section. Help our dwarven brothers out. Make them better so that when you play against them, you have better games. Steamrolling people is fun sometimes. When it happens all the time, well, you're gonna start playing with yourself, and not in that way. But in about a month or so, I will readdress the dwarf book and go over, after I've had some games against them and stuff like that, I will readdress everything and do another review that will be much shorter, but it'll be more like army lists that I've seen, builds that have worked and stuff like that, and it'll be just, now that I've got experience with this book, this is what I've come up with, and this is what I like and dislike, and yada, yada, yada. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. But as always, thanks.